Why is that the case? Maybe it is a little too old. Let me go back and try this again. They send you an email, you know, when you've signed up. Okay. There we go. Join now. Install the app. Of course, it wants me to install an app. Stand by, please. Okay, going through the steps to install WebEx. Installation successful. Preparing the meeting. Almost there. We will see. There's a Cisco WebEx meeting thing here. Okay. You're blazing new territory. Okay, looks like we are on a session. I don't want to use the microphone for them. You can all still hear me, right? I don't hear anything what they're saying yet. Connect audio.
I can hear you. Whoops. I think we can hear you, but we all have ourselves muted.
Yes, okay. All right, it keeps wanting me to allow access to my microphone. I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna try not to say anything. We'll see.
Screen and then the home screen.
So Richard Lynch, talk to us a little bit while you're doing it so we all know we're still connected.
And widgets. You'll get some tips on multitasking on your iPad, and we'll finish with some dedicated time.
Can you hear him talking?
You might have on topics we covered and ways that you can go further. And you're, like I said,
I hear, but it's very faint.
Follow along on your iPad, and feel free to put those questions in the Slido. Let's see. All right, let's get started with our hardware.
Much better.
So you can see here, iPads come in a couple different sizes. We have everything from our iPad mini on the far right right-hand side, we have an iPad Air, and last we have the iPad Pro. The iPad Mini and iPad are going to have a single camera on the back of the iPad, along with the iPad Air, and the iPad Pros are going to have 2 cameras. You're also going to have the iPad itself will have a home button, whereas the iPad Mini, iPad Air, and iPad Pro are going to have no home button. They use Face ID. On the front of your face of your iPad, at the very top middle, is going to be your FaceTime camera.
Looks like I've got everything going. I'm muted to them, but I think you all can still hear me.
Yes, we hear you and them.
Your sleep wake button up at the upper right hand side. That's what you can use to lock your screen or to hold it down to turn it off or power it on. We have volume buttons on the right hand side as well. The one on the top is to raise your volume, and the one on the bottom is to lower your volume. For those that have a home button on it, that's going to be a Touch ID sensor for you. So you can all you have to do is lay your finger on it. You don't have to press down on it necessarily when you're going to initiate any sort of Touch ID, whether you're going to be filling in a field with your password or approving Apple Pay. On an iPad Air, the Touch ID is going to be on the sleep wake button at the top. So you're just going to hold your finger on that when you're doing that. If you have an iPad Pro, it's just going to have Face ID on there for you to be able to use. All right. You also have multiple speakers on your iPad as well. And at the very top, you're going to see you'll see a microphone at the very top of your iPad, on the very top edge of your iPad if you're looking down on it. This is a close-up of the buttons. You can see here on the back of the iPad, we have the single, this looks like an iPad Air. You have a single camera and another microphone below it. You can see here the 2 microphones at the top that I was talking about, as well as right below it, you'll see the FaceTime camera. And you can see the home button that I talked about there if your iPad has a home button on it to use Touch ID. Cool. That is the basics of your hardware of your iPad. Now, all the iPads except for your iPad Air, iPad Pro, and iPad Mini all have a USB-C port on it. Your iPad is going to have a Lightning port. So the Lightning port is the same one you use for your iPhone. So just so you know that obviously they come with the appropriate cable in the box. So let's go over to exploring notifications and controls. So for this, I am going to switch over to my iPad. And this way you'll get to see the screen of the iPad as we go along. All right, so it looks like my screen, you can see there that we have our main screen. If you notice it going dim, that's because my screen is set for that. To get to our notification center, what we're going to do is on our lock screen, we can actually, we're going to take our finger from the middle and swipe up. You'll notice here I have no older notifications, but on yours, so we're just going to take your finger from the center of the screen. You should be able to see my little dot here, and you're just going to swipe up from the center of the screen, just like that. And that'll bring in your notification center. You tap on a notification to view it. It'll actually take you into the application by just tapping on it to open it up. And you can swipe your finger from right to left to give you more options, whether you want to silence it or if you want to delete the notification. The next section is going to be Control Center. Control Center is from the upper right portion of your screen where the battery symbol is. If you take your finger and swipe down from there, swipe down right from the battery notification, you'll see Control Center here. Control Center gives us access to controlling the volume. You can see here that we have a music player up here or a media player. You've also got your options to go into your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, AirDrop, and you've got things like focus, and then you've got quick shortcuts here. On mine, it looks like I've got Shazam, battery, alarm, that kind of thing. We're going to go into how to set that up as well. Now, one really cool feature that you can use is what's called a long press. A long press is basically taking your finger and holding on the icon. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tap and hold on the Wi-Fi icon, tap and hold again, and it brings me to my Wi-Fi. So I don't have to go into my settings from here. I can quickly get to the Wi-Fi settings simply by tapping and holding on the icon. I'll show you that one more time as we go back. So tapping and holding on the icon of the Wi-Fi, I tap and hold on it again, and this way I can get to the Wi-Fi connection that I need to. And you can do the same thing with the Bluetooth option as well. Tap and hold there, brings you into all your Bluetooth devices if they're there. So if you have AirPods or another, like a Bluetooth stereo or something like that, Bluetooth speaker, that's where you'll find that. Another great thing you can do from the lock screen is you can open your camera. And so to open your camera, you can swipe from the right-hand side to the left. So I just flick over my finger from the far right-hand side of my screen, swipe over, and you can see my camera comes up. To get out of the camera, I can take my finger from the very bottom of the screen down here, and I can swipe up. It takes me back to my lock screen. If I need to search for something, I can take my finger from the center of the screen and I can swipe down, and suddenly I have search. That's going to be kind of universal throughout our iPad. So when you're looking at your home screen, which we're going to go to next, taking your finger from the center, swipe just a little flick down, will bring up your search, and you can search for anything on your iPad from there. What questions do you have so far? We have a question that we want to address?
Yes. So far we're rock and rolling. Everyone seems to be enjoying the session. Also, just a fun fact, people are joining us from literally all over the place, from Colorado to Denver to Seattle. So we're a big team today. One question that came up was, can you show the control center one more time? And is it possible to customize those controls within the control center?
That's a great question. Yeah, let's go over control center one more time. So I'm tapping away from the window that was just there to get rid of it. I'm going to take my finger from the upper right-hand corner of my screen where I see the battery symbol and the Wi-Fi symbol, all that stuff up in the upper right-hand corner. You can actually see there's a little line up there too. If I take my finger and swipe down from that line, that's going to give me my control center access. Now to adjust control center, I have to go into my settings app, which we're actually going to get into a little bit later. So we're going to take a look at the settings app because you should really be familiar with the settings app. It's this way it allows you to customize the features of your iPad. Cool. So let's take a look at what we've just covered. Okay, so we went through exploring notifications and controls. Next, we're going to go over navigating iPad OS. This is where the fun begins. Switch back over to my iPad.
So if any of you have any questions, I don't think we're going to have a problem with audio. So go ahead and ask me if you have a question about anything he's talking about, and I'll see if I can get him to answer it. Looks like I just lost audio for him. Don't know why.
dots down at the bottom. This is telling me how many pages of apps I have. And for apps, we've got a lot there. So let's go over a little bit about how do we rearrange our screen if we want to. How do we, move apps around? And the way in which we're going to do that is we're going to use that long press that we talked about earlier where we were tapping on the Wi-Fi in the control center. What we're going to do here is we're just going to hold our finger on any one of the apps. Oops, didn't hold long enough. And it brings up an option here that I can do things with. So I long press on the Safari app, and it gives me a series of options. Now, depending on which app I'm long pressing on, you'll see it gives me a different set of options. But I can choose the option called Edit Home Screen. And you'll notice once I choose that, they'll all start to wiggle around. Once they're in this wiggle mode, this is where I can reposition things. So I'm going to take this big widget on the left-hand side, the one with the, looks like a photos. I'm just going to move it around to the other side. You'll notice that my apps move accordingly. And if I want to change position of this app up here, I can bring it up and release it. So I tap and hold and just kind of grab it and release it. So feel free to practice that. Now, in order to clean up my screen if I want to, I can create folders of apps. So a folder might be good if you have just a ton of apps like I do on my iPad. And I can go through and I can create folders for maybe apps that are the same type of thing. So I have a couple apps here. I have iMovie and Clips, and I want to have just a folder just for my video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger on iMovie and I'm going to drag it and hold it right over Clips and release. You'll notice that it automatically created a folder for me called Photo and Video, a folder for me called Photo and Video. And this is where I can rename it if I want to. Up at the top, you'll see that there's the name field up there. If I tap on the little X in the circle, I can now rename this if I want to and call it Video Editing. And then I can tap away from it to lock it in place. And by tapping away from the screen, anywhere over here, gets me out of there, takes me back to my home screen where I can see all my apps. When I'm satisfied with how things look, I can tap the Done button in the upper right-hand corner. And now I'm done editing my screen. So I'll go over folders one more time, just so we have a way of making sure that we've kind of reiterated that. So two ways that I can start the edit mode is I can either hold my finger anywhere in the background. For a second, I can long press back here and my apps will start to wiggle, or I can tap and hold on any of these to bring up this other menu here and choose edit home screen that way. I might want to bring my magnifier into my measuring app and create a folder of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and hold my finger on magnifier and bring it over top of measuring, and you'll notice now it's created a folder called utilities. Excuse me one moment. I needed a drink of water. My throat was getting parched as I'm talking so much. It happens. It's a hazard. But you can see there that we've created this folder called utilities. And when we tap away from it, it moves back, and then I can tap done to stop them and keep them in place with editing. Now you'll notice, I'm going to swipe back to my first screen. You'll notice that I have those big icons on my screen, and those are called widgets. And widgets are simply a way for me to look inside of an app without actually really being able to, not having to open it. You can see up here, I have the weather telling me what the temperature is in Cupertino and the conditions. I've also got my reminders over here where it's got my basic, I can see quickly into my reminders. My other widget is my music widget, and I also have a photos widget. Now, if I were to tap on any one of these, it's going to open up the app. So say, for instance, I tap on the photo widget, and it's going to take me right into my photos. To get out of my photos, I'm going to take my finger from the very bottom of the screen and swipe up.
So that's me moving my screen around as
So when
he's
we're in
talking.
any app,
So it does give you some controls
we
of
take
your
our
own
finger from the
while
very bottom,
he's
that line at
talking.
the bottom, we swipe our finger up. Takes us back to our home screen.
And I'm zooming in and zooming out myself.
Now with widgets, to add a widget, I'm going to tap and hold on the middle of my screen to get everything wiggling. In the upper left-hand corner, does everybody see that plus sign in that little pill-shaped icon in the upper left-hand corner? If I tap on that, this is going to bring up my widgets. And my widgets, you'll see here on the left-hand side, I've got all the different apps on my iPad that could be widgets. Now, you may have other apps, third-party apps that aren't made by Apple that may be compatible with creating a widget. And so I can choose any one of these I wanted to. So it looks like I even have a Procreate widget here that I can use, which isn't one of our products. So on the right-hand side, you'll see this is my gallery. So I can take a look here. So I see that I have a widget for maps. If I tap on that, you'll see that now I can see that I have the option here. I take my finger on that icon and swipe from right to left. You'll see it gives me options for different sizes. So I can go through here and choose the size that works best for me. When I want to add this widget, I just tap on the blue button. Whenever you see something in blue, just as a pro tip, it means if you tap there, it's going to do the thing it's going to do, that it says it's going to do. So in this case, I'm going to tap on the blue button where it says add widget, and it adds it to my screen. And you'll notice that
So I don't know why all of a sudden everything resolved into high resolution on my display. Now it's not again. I'm not sure why that's happening.
And creating a stack is the same thing is the same method as we use to create a folder with my apps. I can tap and hold on one widget and hold it and release it. And now you've noticed that I've created a stack of widgets here. You can tell that it's a stack because it's got 3 dots to the right-hand side of it, telling me which one it is. When I tap done, you'll notice that everything stays here. Now, if I want to get to, I'm only seeing the photos one on there, but if I want to see that, I can take my finger and simply just swipe through this widget to see the apps that I want to look at. And again, if I want to access an app, I tap on it to open it up. Swiping up from the bottom to get rid of it and go back to my home screen. Now, the next part of this is going to be looking at our day view. The day view is on the left-hand side. So if I take my finger and swipe from the left edge, just swipe over quickly to the right edge, you'll see that I have some widgets here. Day view is going to be a series of widgets that maybe they're not on my going to be sitting on my home screen all the time, but they're apps that I want to get access to. So to open that or to reveal them, I'm going to take my finger from left to right and swipe over. And if I want to hide them, I take my finger and swipe from right to left. So pretty simple right there. Or let me know if it's simple and I can explain it to do it again. Yeah, you got a question?
All right. So we have a question in regards to the differences between an app and a widget. Are there any differences between the two? What differences are there? Maybe advantages of having a widget versus an app?
That's a great question. Yeah, so and I have an example here on my screen. So you'll notice in the dock, so the dock are these apps down here. So the dock is going to be the apps you use most often. And those are going to be these 3 on the left-hand side here as I kind of hover over those. You'll see how they kind of get a little bit bigger there. So everything to the left of this line here is going to be the most recent, are my favorite apps. The ones to the right are going to be the ones I've most recently used. And the one on the far right here is my app library. App library is where I can go to find all my apps. But you'll notice here that I have a Maps application. And you notice the Maps application is kind of general. It just has that little location arrow on it. But you'll notice here under my widget, it actually shows my exact location here. So in that widget, we can see that I have next to it, I have my Photos app. The Photos app is just going to be the representation of the icon for the photos. But you can actually see now I have the widget for my photos. I can actually see a photo. And the same thing if I go to my my reminders. Or this looks like, this is actually my calendar. And so my calendar actually lives on a different page. And if I swipe all the way over to the left, you can see that I can get to my app library. So if I can't find something on the main screen, I always go to my app library. And you can see that I have my calendar app right over here. And to get out of this, I can take 2 fingers and swipe across the screen to go across. So swiping with 2 fingers, or actually 1 finger, sorry. If you're using a trackpad, you can use a trackpad with the iPad, with the iPads as well. But I can take my finger, swipe from right to left to move between my screens again. Now at the bottom of my screen, right above my dock, you'll see those 3 dots I talked about earlier. If I tap and hold on those, you'll see that I now have the ability to see all the different windows that I have with my apps. And if I wanted to, I could clean up my screen. If I have too many app windows, pages of apps, I can hide them by tapping on the check mark to remove the check mark. And this way, when I tap done, I'll only have my main screen of apps. And if I swipe over from right to left, I get to my app library. To bring them back on again, I tap and hold my finger on the screen, tap on the 2 little dots at the bottom, and I can see my app screens again, tapping on them to bring the check marks back, tapping done, and now you'll see that I have my apps back again. So when I hide a screen of apps, it doesn't remove the apps from my iPad. If I wanted to remove an app from my iPad, though, I would tap and hold on it again, and then I would have the option at the very top. You notice this little window has in red to remove app. And that's what I would do. I would tap there to remove the app. If for some reason, I don't recommend deleting the App Store app at all, because that's going to be your key to everything. But if you delete any other app accidentally, you can always re-download it again from the App Store. So once if it's free, you can always re-download it again. And if you've purchased it once, you can always re-download it again for free. So there's no extra charge on that. So if I am in an app and I wanted to, I'm going to go into my Maps app. Now, I'd like to be able to see the dock to be able to quickly get into another app. So I'm going to take my finger from the bottom of the screen where that line is at the bottom, and I'm just going to swipe up like about 1 inch or 2. And that reveals my dock. I'm doing it really slowly. So I swipe up really slowly, it just brings up the dock. This way I can get into another app if I want to. Now, if I want to see the apps that I have open, I can swipe along the bottom right edge of my screen, swipe up from there, and then this way, or left side, and you'll see that I have all my different apps that I have currently open. So if I want to quickly get to Safari, I can tap on Safari to get to it. And if I swipe from the right or left, it brings up, I can quickly switch into my music app if I want to. And again, if I want to get to my dock, slow swipe up from the bottom, just about 1 inch or so, brings up my dock. Now, if I do have my app open, I can, so on that little line at the bottom here, if I take my finger and swipe from right to left on that line, it'll switch between apps as well. So I can switch between open apps from right there. If the app isn't open, it won't appear. So I'm just taking my finger on that little line at the bottom here and swiping left to right. To get back to my home screen, this is where I'm going to take a swipe up and go higher, as if I was going up to the top like that, and takes me back to my home screen. What questions do you have so far that are popping up for you in this section?
Hey, what's going on, Mark? So Ben actually just did a great job of answering this one. The question was, how do I set which pages of apps show up based off of which focus mode I'm in? Focus mode is one of those newer features introduced with the latest iOS, right? In the control center, you'll see focus, and you can basically set it for like personal time or do not disturb. You can even name it whatever you'd like, maybe for work or for school. You can see focus mode there. And if you tap settings within focus mode, there is an area for each focus mode where you can actually adjust which home pages you want to actually show. So if we were to select one of these, you can hit next, or you can even X this one out. And then tap like personal. And next, go through it. And then allow. Allow. Done. There we go. Once you're basically in the actual focus mode itself, that was just basically giving you a preview of what it was. There's an area that says home screen. And under there, custom pages. And then you can actually set it so for this focus mode, when it's on, you can check which screens you actually want to show or not show. So you see that little circle on each one, so you can actually reveal them or hide them. A little bit of a pro tip there, definitely an advanced feature there. So I wanted to make sure, you know, we walked you through it there. But great question.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ben and Alan for answering those and calling those out. Those are really important. All right, so let's go back and see what we've covered so far. I know we're kind of blazing through this right now. Back to our keynote. All right, so we've navigated iPad OS. Next, we're going to look at multitasking, which is related to, it's going to show you some other cool features here. Yeah, this is fun. All right, so I'm on my iPhone screen here, and we have our settings app that I have here. So when multitasking, we can stay on a full screen of an app, and feel free to follow along as we go over multitasking here. I'm going to swipe up from the bottom, and let's open up my calendar. Now you'll notice on the calendar screen or any of these apps, you'll notice at the very top, I have these three dots. And those three dots, if I tap on them, gives me some options for how I want to view new information on the screen. So if I wanted to, you'll notice here on the far left-hand side, this icon looks like full screen. The icon in the middle, if I click there, gives me the option of having a dual screen, split view is what we call it. And let me open up, if I tap on Safari, you'll notice that Safari automatically locks to the right-hand side for me. And I've got this line in the middle here where I can use my finger to say how much of that screen I want to have showing on either side. So that's called split view. And even if I'm in split view, I can still bring up my my dock at the very bottom, and I can bring up another app if I want to. So if I tap on Mail, I can quickly go into Mail. And if I use the swiping action that we did before to switch between apps, you can see that I can swipe over and still see the two apps that are open under split view. To get out of split view, there's two ways I can do it. I can either take my finger from the middle and swipe all the way over, and you'll see now that I have my full screen of apps there. Now, when I'm in an app here, if I want to do, there's another way that you can multitask. So while you're using an app, if we swipe up from the bottom edge and pause to reveal the dock, I can take my finger, tap and hold on the Mail app, and I can move it over to the side. You'll notice that this is called slide over. So this is kind of hovering over the other app. So I've got my Mail here. I can see that I have my inbox here that I can access through my page in Safari, and I can also look through my emails over here. I can add another one there if I want to. So maybe I might want to have my music player. So I'm going to move my music player onto there. And now I've got 2 apps up there. Oops. And if I swipe over from the bottom of this, again, that little line at the bottom here, I take my finger and swipe over from right to left, you'll see that they kind of flip around. So I can quickly, so using that little line at the bottom of that window will let me switch between those apps that are in the slide over mode. I can move it from left to right by tapping on the 3 icons at the top. And I can use my finger to swipe from left to right to hide it. If I want to bring it back, I can just swipe my finger from right to left, and my slide over apps will be there. Now, to get back to my home screen, I'm going to swipe up from the bottom to reveal my home screen. Now, there's a great way that we can find things on our iPad that we're looking for, so we don't necessarily have to go searching through apps. We can actually take our finger and swipe down from the middle of the screen, a quick little flick, and we'll bring up our search. We talked about that on the lock screen earlier. And so this is the same thing. So I can search for basically anything I want here. I might want to say, I'm going to tap on, I'm going to type in the word beach. And you'll see here, I've got all these different options here for beach. You see at the very top, I've got Beachwood Canyon photos, which means if I tap on that little arrow on the right-hand side, this little arrow, when it points to the right, means that there's more information there. So if I tap on that little arrow, it'll actually give me a preview of the photos that were actually taken at Beachwood Canyon.
Okay, I've stopped sharing the audio for now.
Tap on the little X in
We're
the
getting
circle in the
up
upper
to
right corner.
45
So
minutes
that-
into the meeting. Does everyone want to continue watching what he's talking about or proceed
You can
on
also
with our
have it
own
define a
meeting?
word. So I'm gonna
I
type
would
it
like
out.
to
I'll
talk
type
a
it
little
out
bit
for
more
you guys.
about
This is
what
kind of simple.
you can do on your own to
And I can swipe
participate
down
in
here
one of
through
these
all the different
online
search,
meetings that
the
Apple
answers that it gave up.
provides
You'll notice
for
down
us.
here, you
Plus,
can
we've
actually
still got to
see,
do our
you
board
know,
meeting.
I have a dictionary
It looks like
So
built
everybody
into
has
it.
we want to
themselves.
go ahead and stop, or do you want to
From the
keep
internet,
going?
From the new Oxford American Dictionary.
I think everybody has themselves silenced, so I'm not sure if you hear their answers or not.
Actually, beach is.
So I'm guessing we should do whatever you want to do.
At the bottom here, I've got
We don't have very much to say in a board meeting except the routine where Taylor gives us our
websites,
financials, which are okay.
Richard, we're with you.
restaurants near our store,
I'm with you.
Burrito Beach. That you can
Hi, Ray. Can you say that again,
order
please?
for lunch.
I'm with you. Let's go ahead.
Another great feature is I
Okay.
can use
All right.
it
I'm going to go ahead and stop that presentation.
convert units of measure. So I can say,
And stop the share just momentarily. Okay, so the whole point of what I wanted to do today was mainly to show you that you can join these online presentations from Apple. That was a very basic presentation about iPad, but let me share my screen again real quick. And we'll talk about what I did to get to that. So when you go to the main Apple page, you go apple.com. Up here, support, you hit the support button, and you scroll down to virtual sessions with Today at Apple. Sign up. So that gets you to the Today at Apple page. And you can hit calendar up here. You can see in the Dallas area, it must recognize that my computer's in Dallas somewhere, so it just came up with that. You can scroll down and see what they have available. Now, a lot of these things are actually in person, so you can go to North Park Center or South Lake Town Square and you can attend an in-person session, just like the old days. So they've started doing that again. But you can see that third one down there, virtual session, intro to iPhone. So if you're a beginner to iPhone, you could sign up for that online session today at 11 o'clock, and you could do what we were just doing on your own. Just participate in that online session. So that's kind of the thing I wanted to show you, is that you can tailor your own participation in all of these different things. And some of it's very basic and some of it's kind of advanced, I think. In addition to those sessions, if you scroll down from that Today at Apple webpage, you'll see that they have different topics. Photography, and it says you can learn essential photo skills, experiment, and even break the rules. So, that's their pitch to get you on this page. And what it provides you, if you go down a little bit further, you can view the calendar for all the photography specific sessions. And they're not only sessions, they're actually videos. So you can bring up a video that they pre-recorded and just watch that at any time you want. There was a kind of a cool one I watched about photography. I know some of you are photography aficionados. Video, same thing with video. If you like making your iMovies, you can watch their things. Music, we've done a little bit about music recently. So, GarageBand and all that's available. If any of you are into making your own apps and coding with Apple, they can help you get started with that. They can probably show you some basic and advanced techniques for coding and making apps. Art and design. So how to use your system to be an artist. Watch some videos there. And then, occasionally we get requests from members, can we have a session on how to use hardware, how to use the systems? So here you can go and take a look at the various products, the Apple Watch, the iPad. We just saw a basic iPad session, but all these things are available on Today at Apple. And at the very bottom, again, just a kind of a summary of what's coming up in our area and online. So that's what I wanted to show today. And that, the sharing that online presentation was not easy to do. So that is probably not some, I don't know, we could do that again if you wanted to, but it's probably better if everybody picks their own individual time. It's going to ask you to download a Cisco WebEx app, which I did there. And it's very similar to this Ring Central app, so just a few little differences in the controls around the edge and the things you can do. All right. So that's what I wanted to show today.
Excuse me, what did you say that you downloaded a Cisco what kind of app?
So it'll ask you, similar to when you first bring up our meeting, it may ask you, do you want to download Ring Central? Well, that one, when you go to their online presentation, it says download WebEx. And apparently WebEx is a Cisco app, because it said Cisco WebEx webinar. And so you'll have to do that the first time that you join one of their online presentations, is go ahead and get that WebEx for a webinar app, and then you can join their session.
So people that aren't as skilled as you, would people like me want to do that? Or will I get more on my computer than I know what to do with?
That's a good question. Let me share my screen again, because this is the thing that comes up for me, when I. So it says how to prepare for your WebEx. WebEx is that app they're doing. You'll be prompted to download the free app when you join the session. iPad and iPhone users required to download. They are required to download that app. But apparently, if you're on your Mac, you can just use your browser to do it. Because I did see that pop up too. It said, for Mac, use your browser. Okay. But
Aren't we all on Macs of some sort?
I assume so. But I don't know if some people are using their iPads or whatever to participate in these meetings. But you could. That's an option. If you're out somewhere or you just want to use your iPad to do one of these online virtual presentations, looks like you're required to download the WebEx.
Oh, interesting. Your voice broke all up, which I think you probably know. Oh, my internet connection is unstable, it's telling me.
No. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I've got. We do have a board meeting that we're required to have this month. So I will turn it over to the board meeting.
Okay. I guess if we're ready, then we'll just say that we're opening our board meeting, please. And normally we start with I don't have it in front of me, but I think we start with our treasurer's report. Taylor, are you?
Okay, I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. How about the rest of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think we all can.
Okay, our treasurer's report for June 2022 has us at $16,028.80 unaudited, and all bills paid, and we just had a few transactions last month, so all is good with that. I'll transition over to the membership report, where we have 55 active members, 51 are primary, and 4 are secondary members. And that concludes my treasurer and membership reports.
Thank you very much. I'm writing a note, so I'm a little slow here. All right, so the rest of you can help me because I didn't bring my notes in front of me to help me remember the things.
I show that the program report and schedule is next on the meeting notes here.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Program director.
we go back to Richard for the program. Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
Right. So next month, we've got a presentation on my workflow with LumaVision. So LumaVision and Synology by Lawrence Jenkins will be talking to us. I don't know that I'll be actually there. I'm going to be taking a family trip to Florida through the 10th. Is that our meeting date? July 10th?
9th is the
9th.
meeting date.
Right. So I'll be missing the meeting, but Lawrence will be giving you that presentation. And then I do have some things lined up pretty much all the way to November. So November, December looks like they're still open. If anyone has anything they'd like to volunteer to talk about, otherwise I'll keep looking for other presenters for those 2 months.
Well, November is when we do have our elections, so that takes a little bit of time because You know, when we do it with all our pictures instead of in a room.
Right,
I think it takes us a little bit longer, but
right.
not extreme.
And we haven't, we haven't talked yet about December. I know the Meadows Center is closing, so we're, you know, that's not going to be an option for in-person meetings anymore like we were investigating. So, you know, if we wanted to talk about possibly some kind of a Christmas get together this year, you know, we could start thinking about that.
Certainly the restaurants and the rooms that restaurants have to have meetings in and things, it looks to me like they're all functioning quite well. I don't know about all, but plenty of them. If we want to think about in December at least, trying to get an actual live get together.
Yeah, I think that would be, you know, a fun thing to do after all this time, not being able to get together if everybody wants to do that. I periodically check the COVID rates in Collin County, and right now they're very low.
I think they go up and down in Dallas. But it would appear to me, because by December, we're almost into 3 years. I don't envision us living the rest of our lives, and I have shorter years than the rest of you, but we're not going to live them in our house like in a cave or in a hermit or whatever those single things are. I think we'll just go out and decide, well, it's kind of like when we had a flu epidemic. We didn't quit living. We used a Kleenex and, you know, learned how to, I mean, kids nowadays know how to cough and sneeze into their arm. I don't even remember doing that when I was a child. They just learn all those things. So at some point when we can get a meeting place, we probably could start trying to be live. I'd like to think all of you are vaccinated the best you can be, or inoculated, or however you want to speak of it. So how many would actually come to a live meeting if we had one? Well, I see plenty of hands in the pictures I have on my screen, so I think it's worth the trial. And it's certainly as soon as the city says that people can have meetings, even if everybody doesn't live exactly in the city, we should try. But Richard, I think you told me that we can't get the place we thought we were gonna get. So, but
Correct.
I mean, today we're 11, but let's just say we're 20, because if we have a meeting, maybe a few more would come out. It seems like we could try one of those restaurant places on a Saturday morning that have a, you know, quote, a back room, where when you have a crowd, they let you have, quote, the back room.
Leonard may have a suggestion about that, because he does have a group that does meet, and I don't know how large a group his is. His is, I think the Gideons meet on Saturday morning, and so I may check with him and see where they meet and you know, how big their group is.
Okay. I mean, a long time ago, when I first came to these meetings, we used to meet on a place, I don't even know what it's called anymore, but it's more or less Campbell and 75, I guess, on what I would call the northwest side of it all. And it's a cute looking restaurant whose name I no longer remember today either, but that puts it in the far north Dallas area, which maybe is too far to drive for everybody else, except it's easy driving. So just randomly, do people have an idea that we should get in the center of town, the north, the east, the west, the south? Somebody give me,
You know, we
which,
have our friends in Fort Worth that like to attend, and then people up in North Plano and Frisco area. So yeah, some kind of a central location.
okay, but what you just explained to me, central northwest, because coming then from the north, it's easy. And if you get to where you are such that they can take a turn off the highway, if you're coming from the west. So we shouldn't go to the southeast. So arbitrarily, a northwest area of Dallas. Well, I only know Dallas.
The Metroplex.
Thank you. Does that make sense to you all?
Yes.
Sounds right. Okay, we'll
I'm
keep
going to
thinking.
look for a place that arbitrarily holds 20 people.
Well, we may try to get it on that because, you know, if we can hold it, then let our people who formerly attended know, then they might be willing to come back.
Okay, but we've only been between 12 and 18, 11 today.
But I'll continue looking.
So, yeah, but what will you look for, 30 or 50?
Whatever I can find, you know, it's finding a place that
Too big,
will hold.
people feel too, I don't know, they don't feel cozy together and they sit all over the room and, you know, things like that. So if it's,
You know, I know that I've been attending a meeting with my Adams alumni group at the North Oak Cliff Library, and it would hold probably at least what we're looking at for the number. Now, I realize that's not north and west, but possibly a library might have a room available, and we could hold possibly something there.
I guess I thought,
Regular
thinking
meeting.
of,
And I know what you're talking about, but I'm also talking about beginning to hold our regular meetings there if we wanted to.
right.
Okay. Well, we'll at least start to investigate a Christmas get together, and then if that seems to work out for everyone, then we can maybe
But-
grow that into the next phase of our in-person meetings.
What we're calling Christmas was actually going to be reasonably early December
Right.
meeting.
Christmas party.
Yeah. Ditto, I'm thinking if things really keep opening up, we could even try it for November.
Hmm.
So we'll all be in touch with each other between next month, etc., and see if something really pops up. But the obvious would be that we need to get to where the north people can get down here easy and the west people can get easy. So when one is where you can turn off a highway and only go a little distance to get into something, I think that makes a better location.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay,
Okay, that is all for the program director's report.
so does anybody else have any other old business that we should discuss?
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business that we should discuss? I don't have my notes today, Richard. The days all sneak up.
Yeah, and I didn't even remind you. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Somebody reminded me, right? Taylor did, right at 10 o'clock. And of course, I'm sitting here with coffee and my computer. I got his message and signed on. Okay, what was the other thing I was going to say? That's old business, unfinished business, and old business, and new business. Whoops. Oh, I thought I saw Mary's hand go up. So does anybody else have anything else we should talk about? Even if I don't label it all, he's just quite right. Okay, I guess I'd have to say we have had our business meeting and we're kind of set up for some meetings to come. And I guess between, we find more meetings are going live and facilities are opening. We could bring it up to each other and maybe we can even have a meeting before December or November. Maybe we could do it like when the kids go back to school in September. Not that it makes any difference to us about going back to school, but